Hello, ladies and gentlemen. We're back once again with our fourth 12 Days of Christmas special. This year, it's a Lovecraftian offering by the name of It Happened on the Mysterious Isle of Seacliffe. In the last days of 1990, a writer sets out to explore a shadowy island in the North Sea. The little-known Isle of Seacliffe has long haunted the dreams of the middle-aged author. Will his long-awaited excursion scratch a lifelong itch? The story comprises 12 parts, airing daily from today through to January the 6th. We'd like to thank all horror babblers out there for continuing to support our work, making projects such as this possible every year. And without further ado, It Happened on the Mysterious Isle of Seacliffe by Ian Gordon. On Seacliffe. If, on a clear day, one follows the Cleveland Way between Port Mulgrave and the seaside village of Staithes, a glance across the North Sea might just reveal a distant shape, the suggestion of a bleak, rocky outcrop on the horizon. Though denizens of nearby mainland towns may spurn its mention, certain barefaced fishermen might identify the barren isle as Seacliffe. Some 15 miles long and, at its widest point, 6 miles wide, the Isle of Seacliffe is home to 1,000 people, and was once a centre for the mining of lead ore, the evidence of which remains in the intimidating headstocks of Morton Lead Mine, which tower above the island's coastal capital, Redditch. In 1978, Seacliffe natives welcomed the closure of Morton Lead Mine, eagerly resuming the agricultural pursuits that have enabled the islanders to subsist independently for centuries. The isle rarely receives visitors. The most common callers are haulers, with whom Seacliffe farmers occasionally trade. The scarcity of tourists is due, in part, to age-old rumors pertaining to shadowy practices and alleged cult activity. The British publication Fortean Weekly has presented a number of articles on Seacliffe, some of which nominate the isle as the probable location of the mysterious sect, the Seven Sisters, sometimes known as the Order of the Sleeper. Rumors and speculation aside, access to Seacliffe is difficult due to the cessation of public transport following the closure of the lead mine, though a penny or two tossed in the direction of a lone hauler might just entitle one to a means of passage. Beyond the conveniences Redditch has to offer, general store, pub with lodgings, a monthly farmer's market, to name a few, the isle is dominated by two distinct topographical features. Cap Mountain, the flat summit of which stands at 2,100 feet, and Northcliffe Moor, a vast expanse of heath divided by rough tracks, cultivated dales, and babbling waterways. The barren rock known as Seacliffe is a strange, unexplored, enigmatic jewel. Its reclusive residents, ostensibly, would like to see that it stays that way. Introduction. The following handwritten account, presented here in 12 parts, was penned by the eminent paranormal fiction writer Edgar J. Howarth, following his alleged excursion to the Isle of Seacliffe in the late winter of 1990. 1. An Island in the Darkness. December 22nd, 1990. Finally! Decades of research culminating in a 4-night stay just a few feet from the harbour here in Staithes on the North Yorkshire coast. The cottage is delightful, cosy, colourful, overlooking the sea. Perhaps retirement will permit me to return to this haven. A local fisherman, Cooper is his name, has agreed to take me to Seacliffe, under the proviso I keep the fact to myself. A reputation counts for a lot up here, I've gathered. Well, the man's secret's safe with me. I've no real interest in him or his repute. My interest lies out there, beyond the dark waves that, at this very moment, are lapping at the foundation stones of this old place. What can I say about Seacliffe? It hardly seems necessary to prattle on about its remoteness, its strangeness. You should see the looks on the faces of the villagers here when I so much as hint at it. Rather, I should say this. It's an island of secrets. As Churchill once said of Russia, it is a riddle wrapped in a mystery, inside an enigma. Should I speak of my dreams, the visions that have haunted me for as long as I can remember? Soon, perhaps. Those in the know, those who have put the hours in, will know about the sect, an order dedicated to the reappearance of some unimaginably ancient being or deity. And, if my calculations are correct, the homecoming of said deity is nigh. Shouldn't I be cautious, afraid? Probably. The truth is, vindication is a powerful motivator. To prove conclusively that the terrible creatures we horror writers plunder the depths of the human soul to uncover actually exist, that they live and breathe as we do, share our sunsets, gaze at the moon, that would be vindication indeed. I'm 57 years old. I've seen my fair share of real-life horror. Perhaps it's the fear of real-life horror that drives writers such as me to explore the fantastic. That, and the dreams, of course. Regardless, my work has steered me here, and soon enough I'll stand upon that barren rock and garner the insight dusty books can only infer. Christmas Eve, 8 p.m. Staithe sure is quiet this time of year. Have barely seen a soul today. I'm exaggerating, of course. The locals are out and about. Slipped into the Royal George this evening in search of food. Enjoyed a 3-course meal whilst listening to the muted conversations taking place at the bar. It would have been nice to overhear mention of the Isle, but, as I've already suggested, the locals seem reluctant to talk about it. The subject of Seacliffe is one to be dismissed by all and sundry in these parts. Perhaps the sect has tendrils here on the mainland, a sort of smoke-screen. Well, that's as maybe, but I'm not one to stoke a fire with my bare hands. Passage to the Isle has been arranged. That's good enough for me. So, what do I know about the key issues? I have to admit that I'm not exactly bursting with insight, but I can at least offer a brief summary of what I've learned. The Isle of Seacliffe, an island for all intents and purposes lost in the North Sea, is the home of the Order of the Sleeper, a small sect dedicated to a weird fish god. It has been suggested that this unnamed god, referred to as the Sleeping King, is a fertility god, much like the Mesopotamian deity Dagon. However, this idea has never held much water with me. The true nature of this thing is unknown. It has also been inferred that the sect welcomes the return of their god in physical form every 50 years, the last reappearance having taken place in the winter of 1940. Evidence of this was proffered by a downed German fighter pilot during the Second World War, who, in open water, just east of the mysterious isle, was almost pulled under by something enormous that swam by him in the night. Washed ashore just south of the island's capital, Redditch, he described a crowd of cavorting locals on the seafront, the sand an eerie scarlet under a blood-red sky. The book, The Rare and the Radical, by P.B. Harris, outlines in greater detail all of the above. Over the years I've found that it's futile to chase rumors. It's impossible to corroborate any wild tale without a thorough investigation. Even then, I doubt the locals, notoriously tight-lipped they are, will open up to the likes of me. I suppose only time will tell. That just leaves the dreams, the visions that are sharpened somewhat when contemplating the strange account of that downed fighter pilot. Christmas Day, 2 p.m. I haven't spent Christmas Day alone in 25 years, though I have to admit the cottage is the perfect place to do so. My hosts have been generous enough to furnish the lounge with a rather modest Christmas tree. Its baubles are exclusively red glass, but its presence is appreciated nonetheless. I've a plump turkey crown in the oven, the leftovers of which will serve me well en route to the Isle tomorrow. I'll dine, toast to Mary, and spend the rest of the day by the window. These last few days I've noticed an intermittent shimmering on the horizon just after sunset. How tantalizing. Boxing Day, 8:30 a.m. I can hardly believe it. I've made it. Seacliffe. And though the heavens have opened, I'm sitting somewhat comfortably in a small shack overlooking the North Sea. But how did I get here, I hear you ask? Armed with my trusty hold-all, I met with Cooper, a grizzled character in a thick wool coat and bucket hat, by the harbour at 6 a.m. sharp. My being punctual was another, albeit unspoken, proviso. In a manner all too casual, we boarded the wooden-hulled vessel Tunny and set off into the blackness of a chilly December morning. Though dark and foreboding, we sailed upon a dead calm sea, my eyes fixed upon the bow in anticipation of some fast-approaching, unseen behemoth. Regarding Cooper, I attempted small talk once or twice, but the fellow was far too preoccupied with his duties at the helm to pay me any notice. That said, he hadn't been much of a talker in the first place. I had my taking him by surprise on the 22nd to thank for securing passage to the Isle. The poor fellow hadn't a chance to decline my request. At approximately 7:30, Cooper mumbled something above the hum of the Tunny, and shortly afterwards I was able to perceive a dark mass starboard. This, of course, was my first glimpse of the mysterious Isle of Seacliffe. As we neared the island, the sun was rising in the east, illuminating the rolling hills and the seemingly colossal crag known as Cap Mountain. An ethereal presence loomed in the light mist that clung to the hills and peaks like cotton wool, a presence that I could have sworn emitted the softest whine or drone, with a vocal quality the likes of which I'd never heard before. And though the drone was faint and wistful, it was possessed of an eeriness that didn't so much frighten as it did entice me. Unusually, we docked some miles north of the main harbour at Redditch. This, Cooper grunted at me, being due to the fact that the old hauler was apparently in no mood to barter with the natives on Boxing Day. His reasoning was razor-thin, I thought, and couldn't help but sense another, deeper cause for reluctance lurking beneath the straw-like beard that filled 2/3 of his windswept face. And so, as the clouds above burst, I jogged the length of the tired pier to which the Tunny had delivered me, and clambered up a slippery stone staircase in the direction of this very shack. According to Cooper, the uneven road, more of a track really, along which the shack stands, will take me all the way to Redditch. I'll wait for the worst of the rain to pass, and then I'll be on my way. But boy, is it exciting! Thanks for listening today, folks. Join us again tomorrow for the next part.